So I've been playing Deltarune since a little before Chapter 2 came out, and for the past few months, everyone's been making theories and videos for what they think is going to happen, and what evidence it has or certain stuff, because holy shit, these last two chapters had huge lore drops and implications that are at least going to have everyone talking about it until Chapter 5 comes out, which will be crazy. But for now, I wanted to make a video about what I thought was going to happen. And not what everyone else thinks or the general consensus of the lore, what evidence could mean what, because I think everyone has their own theories and opinions on it. But yeah, I am going to be referencing the evidence I find to back up my theories, and also maybe a lot of it will just be what I think is cool, so I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to talk about different theories, the future state of the game, and just kind of give my opinions here and there, you know? So for the recap. Clearly, in the weird route, Chris is trying to change or do something. You know, from the Gerson fight and Susie's dialogue too, we can assume the game will end in a time loop 100%, I think so. Just like in Undertale's true reset, save states and loading save mechanics. I think we're all assuming he's seen the end of the game and wants to change it, work towards it faster, or is really what's on the side of or is really on the side of the knight. Who knows? What we know is he's definitely grooming Noelle to follow his lead to unlock her hidden power. So Noelle's power will help in later chapters. But to be honest, I have no idea how. I think that the chapter 3 weird route, sword route, shadow mantle route, Chris might kill his friends. Chapter 3 weird route and theories. This one was actually extremely dark and was one of the turning points that made me feel the same about Deltarune that I did of Undertale. I think that's why a lot of people cling to genocide and the weird route, because it subverts the theme of the game and our expectations of it. So basically, I have no idea what this means except for the fact that later in the weird route, Chris will want all his friends out of the way for his plan, or he'll find a way to kill them. Especially Susie because of her game-changing abilities that we'll talk about later. A nice detail shown about this part is when Chris looks away almost in horror at killing his friends. This shows that Chris, the vessel, actually cares about his friends and doesn't want to see them get hurt. See, because Chapter 3 Dark World is low-key about him bonding with them again and trying to recreate his only memories of hanging out with his friends. But since Chris does this on his own, we can assume it was Chris, the vessel, and not us, you know, the soul. The whole agency and decision-making thing for Chris is a little weird, but it makes sense enough to assume some things about their relationship. Like that they both want different things, that Chris is working with the knight in some way, but can't let his soul get in the way. However, he always puts us back in after he's done, showing he probably needs us to blend in or do things like fight enemies and close fountains to gain trust with his friends. You know, things that Chris the vessel can't do on his own. Because of this, we can assume that maybe the actions in the weird route isn't exactly what Chris wants either. Maybe he wanted to work with the knight, but us grooming Noelle to get more powerful, it seems like it's going to end in a way that differs from the knight's original plan. Or it'll make its own version of the plan that does what the knight wants and more. Or maybe the weird route is the knight's plan for us to power up Noelle, kill the heroes, and become used up. Maybe the regular journey we're taking is us doing what we can to go against the knight, the roaring, the prophecy that Chris may or may not already know at this point. It's also worth mentioning that when you tell Ralsei you're thinking of going to the festival with Noelle, he says he thinks that's a bad idea, which means it'll probably end up leading to the roaring or something worse. Clearly, he knows what your plan is too and has seen the events of the game, or at least knows the prophecy. Or it might actually be that what we're doing goes in a completely different direction of the prophecy or Ralsei's plan to be nice to everyone and change the prophecy. Since we don't know the end of the game, we don't know exactly where this route is going. And because it's built like a creepypasta, there's not a lot of clues or evidence to put any of it together except for the weird route video game. And I kind of just wrote, "Are we in the Matrix?" Because I kind of made my bullet points like questions or topics I wanted to talk about, but I fucking forgot like what this was supposed to mean. Maybe because we're playing a game, who's playing a game, who's, you know, playing a game, the sword game. The prophecy. Okay, so I don't really have a lot to say about the prophecy because I feel like it's not trying to be misleading or confuse us. I think it's just the prophecy of the story. I know a lot of people speculate and have theories that the girl with hope crossed on her heart might be Noelle and that we might get to control her or something. And even though that might be true, I seriously think that if they're gonna do that, it would be with Susie. Because obviously she's becoming more the main character and having a huge arc throughout the chapters. She's the most powerful member of our party. She can fight, she can act on her own, heal, and make decisions for us that change the game. It's like she's playing the game, and we're the weird twist villain that comes to betray them later. I think that Noelle won't really have a huge arc, or at least I don't think that she'll be the one who saves the world. I feel like it has to be Susie, to fight the roaring, be the one, to make this sacrifice in the end. Hypothetically. Based on the final prophecy that she broke, I think someone will have to make a sacrifice, and it'll probably be Susie, as it'll complete her arc to go from turning to the villain side in chapter 1 to being the hero that gave their life to save the town. Or, instead of this, maybe before she dies, there'll be a time loop set in place so that she can keep going on her last adventure over and over again with Kris and Ralsei. Wow, what an ending. Alright guys, good game, playing fucking Goose Simulator now. But anyways, I do think it's kind of obvious what'll happen in the end now, if you believe that's Susie in the prophecy. And I will talk about what I think will happen in the end game. But I just realized something. I was gonna talk about what the weird route has to do with the prophecy, and then it hit me. It is Noelle in the prophecy. Gerson says it's just a bunch of loosely predicted events. So I think it may be Noelle who is the hero and... Ah damn, I have to wait till the end of the video to talk about this. God! But I think though it may try, the weird route will still end up following the prophecy loosely, but maybe it'll end different. Or maybe it'll end in the true fashion of the game, the exact same as any other choice we made, as if none of it mattered. What will happen in chapter 5? So the next chapter comes out in 2026 and it's gonna have a lot to do with Asgore, hopefully explaining the mystery of what happened to Ness. Gerson says in chapter 5, the vast garden is charred in an inferno of jealousy. I don't know what specifically he's talking about for chapter 5, because his descriptions of the past chapters are vague and kind of misleading. In chapter 1, we stop the king and I guess Susie is the dragon because we stopped her from killing. We save the queen on a chariot ride or something, which I guess we do in the car when we fight Spamton Neo. In chapter 3, he says heroes travel among the island to catch a glimpse of lost land. While the glimpse of lost land might be referring to Kris's past and his favorite memories he's trying to recreate with his friends, he only really traveled between islands for one part, and for the weird route. So, from all we know, at least one thing is gonna happen. So yeah, my first thought was obviously that Asgore's gonna get angry enough to start using his fire magic, and it'll end up burning his dark world, which will be like the Mother 3 Golden Flower scene. Maybe after he burns his flowers, he realizes how destructive he's becoming and why he's really acting the way he is. I have no clue how the heroes will play a role in it aside from helping Asgore with the fire, because the prophecy says we have something to do with that. I feel like because of a lot of empty information, it might lead us into more lore territory, which gives us clues on the relationship between Asgore and Ness's disappearance. Yeah, I do think he was drunk driving. Reasonable explanation. As well as showing some more lore and background characters like the knight, Noelle's mom, Carol, Undyne, and Alfie's relationship, because maybe she's missing her and wants to find her or something. A theory for the weird route in chapter 5 is that Sans will be in it in some way, and maybe in fueling Asgore's rage, they'll run Sans out of town or hurt him or something. Sans in Undertale has a picture of us three and says we were great friends of his. I don't know for sure if Sans has something to do with this dark world, and because Asgore has the black shard, the secret boss is probably him or something close to him. But based on chapter 4's ending, like come on, who else is he gonna be jealous of? The TV? So a fun theory I've been thinking about is maybe in the weird route, or even in the regular route, Asgore's gonna wanna F up Sans. Which obviously he will lose horribly, unless he had determination. But for reals though, I think it would be cool if they fought and Sans was like, hey man, I don't want to fight, stop this. And he doesn't attack back because he knows he could fold him. Or they do fight and Sans gets hurt. Maybe we help him, or maybe someone else does. Okay, so like, just hear me out on this. Papyrus Sans fight in Undertale. Papyrus saves Sans' life from Asgore and maybe even from Chris. Maybe Sans gets in the way of the weird route and we fight Papyrus after he beats up Asgore and takes his black shard. Okay, so just think about this for a sec. I know it would be more comedic because it's our first introduction to him in Deltarune. I think this is why. And because we get a lot of him in Undertale if you spare and date him. But think about how much sense it would make based on the clues in Undertale. The Papyrus fight is the only one where he brings us down to 1 HP every time and captures us. And realize every monster including Torio kills us. She even makes a little face when you die in her battle like it was an accident. So Papyrus knows exactly what the fuck he's doing. And we could all agree that his fight is pretty easy, just long and unpredictable. Or even when Undyne says he can't join the Royal Guard, she emphasizes that it's not because he was not strong enough. So maybe she knows what the Skeleton Brothers are capable of and there's some motivation for Papyrus to want to have fun with us in Undertale. So maybe we go through his puzzles with him in Chapter 5 and he really enjoys our time together. Maybe Sans is happy with us because in the chapter we were nice to him, and in Undertale, Sans wants to help Papyrus reclaim those memories of doing puzzles like Chris and Tenna did in Chapter 3. Maybe in our Undertale Papyrus fight, he's just showing off and going easy on us because he knows if he went full strength, he'd probably scare us even in the genocide route. He actually wants to be our friend more than he really wants to capture us, which is why he spares us after seeing how determined we are to survive the attacks he's throwing at us. This could also add more context to Sans being mad that you killed his brother and going all out on you in the genocide route. Because Papyrus saved his life, maybe even against a human. But since none of this has any real proof or evidence to lead us this way, it's just a fun idea I had that could be cool for a fan game, I don't know. Sans in Undertale does have a picture of 3 people and says we were great friends. So maybe this chapter has us wandering in the dark world with him messing around with us like Gerson did in Chapter 4. It sounds like a funny chapter with lots of Undertale nostalgia. But I feel like his games aren't really made that way. There has to be something new that wasn't in Undertale. tobyfox is obviously making these games with Undertale characters in the story, but his chapters are all about new characters, or giving Undertale characters more context to their stories, or fleshing them out in a way Undertale didn't, giving them a chance to shine again in a new story exactly like with Gerson. And one last thing I want to say for Chapter 5 is I do hope that it focuses on Ralsei and his arc though. The first chapter we met Lancer, the second one was around Noelle, Chapter 3 was Chris's dark world and about his childhood, Chapter 4 was Susie's dark world and about her learning from Gerson and believing in her own abilities to change the prophecy. So it'd make a lot of sense if we got one about Ralsei, considering he won't shut up about how Darkeners' lives don't matter and how Susie knows it's bullshit. And it would make sense to have it be with Asgore's story, and with Azrael coming back for the festival. But with all that being said, let's talk about the next very juicy theory. Who is the Knight? So the identity of the Knight, if it even has one, has been talked about ever since Chapter 4 finished, and holy hell was that a good one. Is Carol the Knight? It would make sense that we see her in the beginning of Chapter 4. She has the Knight's sword clearly, and I guess it's not a baseball bat. But I feel like it being her is way too obvious, as we see her right after we're supposedly talking to the Knight. And even Asgore says she's nice when you get to know her. So it's Rudy. It's so simple. He's at church, he's friends with Asgore, who's a police chief, he has antlers, it's him. He laughs because he really can't kick her ass in the dark world. Okay, it's definitely not Rudy. He's sick as fuck, he's not an evil dude at all, because how is he getting around in the light world? Way too huge of a twist. Unless, we see more sus Rudy activity in Chapter 5. But I'm just gonna say who we all think it is, including me. Ness is the Knight. Everyone knew it, but why? What's interesting to me is why, or why I think. What we know is she was rebellious and went missing, and Asgore may have had something to do with it. She's supposedly been gone for years and is presumed dead. That's what we really know about her for sure. I want to talk about her motivations though, and how she turned into such a creature of pure darkness. So we can assume she was being rebellious and wandered off to maybe a dark world. Asgore was there too and maybe tried to help her or failed in some way to get her out and ended up losing his job as police chief. When they got into the dark world, they found the knight or someone else who Asgore may have fought to get the black shard. The same thing probably killed or captured Ness, or she just couldn't escape and turned into the knight from being in the darkness for too long. It changed her. Now her rebellious aura is aimed at creating the roaring and destroying the same light world that left her for dead in the darkness. Maybe she doesn't need to walk around in broad daylight because she can travel to other dark worlds like Ralsei and Gerson. Could it be true? We don't know. Or we don't know anything for sure right now at least. The end of the game. Okay, so like I've been saying, we don't really know anything for sure, except that the sword route in chapter 3 is possible foreshadowing for the end of the game, or the intentions of Kris, or the knight, or the end of the weird route. And like I said, we do know for sure that game will end in a loop 100%. Like nothing will change my mind. It'll be exactly like Undertale, where if you replay the game, it's canonically a time loop. And maybe you become free of Gaster's experiment or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Honestly, I wonder what the last 2 chapters will even be about, like if they're completely different. In the Gerson fight, he talks about how the author stopped writing the book after chapter 6, and there's nothing after that, so maybe chapter 7 will be like a meta chapter. Like what if in chapter 7 it's like a different sort of chapter? Like you're in Gaster's lab, or you finally meet him and he explains his experiments and what's become of it. But based off the evidence of the prophecy, I think I have a clear idea of what the end of the game will be, whether it's in chapter 6 or chapter 7. I am almost certain that at the end of the game, the roaring will start, or be threatening to start it, or that shit might even just happen. But the part I am certain on is that Susie will be the one to stand up for them. And for some reason, our soul will leave Kris and unite with Susie, probably in the light world. And everyone knows what happens to a monster with a human spirit. Susie will become a powerful dragon and fight the roaring with our human soul. Just like Azrael takes the human souls in Undertale, it'll be exactly like that. Except we'll be the one controlling her. Based on the prophecy and the writing of the game so far, I'm almost certain that even if the next 2 chapters have inconsistencies with this is where the game's going, or is supposed to go for now. And I think that solves the final prophecy that Susie shatters too. I think that after Susie stops the roaring, her body will melt because of the amount of determination to save her friends and the people of Hometown. And that's the end of Deltarune. Or, something else that could happen is that our soul joins with Noelle and her ice magic is powered up. Pew pew pew! And then, it would explain why the soul leaves Kris's body, because maybe in the first half or the beginning of chapter 6 you have to play as the soul, because you and Kris didn't reunite. Maybe the knight finally causes the roaring and it's like Spider-Man 2, where you gotta find the venom sources and fight them in the light world. Like, it could be anything at this point. I'm not sure anybody really expected chapter 3 to be about Kris playing video games and the TV being an actual dude trying to entertain you and dancing in different art styles, or fucking chapter 4 to be like the best chapter by far, not gonna lie. Like with the prophecy, more evidence is pointing that Susie is the main character and will probably be the hero in the story. Maybe the weird route will be like Undertale's pacifist route. In the beginning of Undertale, Flowey says that it's either kill or be killed in the underground, and in the pacifist route, you prove him wrong completely. Maybe in this game, the weird route is changing the game, even though it's framed as more of a genocide route. So I guess that kind of makes it a stretch because of all that. So even though I already started talking about it, let's get to my conclusion. What I think is going to happen in the game. So in short, what I really think is going to happen, based on everything I said and weighed in this video, is definitely that in the end of the game, your soul will combine with the monster's vessel, and I'm pretty sure that part of the prophecy was very obvious, and I think that part, and I think the part that Susie smashes their monster body melts from determination, or maybe Noelle's. I think that in the next few chapters, Noelle will have a lot more time in the Dark World and have her own arc where she uses her powers to help us. And I think the weird route will be different because Noelle will have already been stronger. And Kris is going to be able to fight the final boss easier. But the real final boss of the weird route will be the true culprit of the game, Gasta. Or just like the Super Knight or something. The Gaster stuff has a lot of evidence, but I can't say I think for sure he'll even have a role in the game, or if tobyfox will just troll us with more lore and keep us mad, I don't know. I'm also not too certain how Chapter 6 or the end of Chapter 5 will lead us up to this, but I did say that there's evidence from Gerson that Asgore will at least set his flowers on fire from jealousy or something. Probably Sans. Either he'll have some character arc, or they'll give a portion of the story to one of the new characters and have Asgore almost like a foil, or more like a mirror character, like how Ralsei's story is kind of like Azriel's, or like how Dessa's story of how she became the knight is a lot like Flowey's, or I don't know, I guess they just have a lot of references to Flowey. I do hope that the next chapter focuses on Ralsei again, because I like his character in the game and I think he's right. Maybe the pacifist route in the game will lead us to something nice in the end. And even though we know Sans is probably going to be in the Dark World or referenced in it because of Chapter 4, I really hope Sans gets in a fight with Asgore, or we get the Papyrus fight in the weird route, or something cool like that. Like, I don't know, I think that would be such a fire reference, and set such crazy emotional context for Sans, and why he's the way he is in Deltarune. I do think it'll reveal that in some capacity in Chapter 5, or by the end of the game in the weird route. And those are my hopes and dreams for Deltarune. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you making it to the end because it took a while to make this script. And I wanted to talk to people about Deltarune and the lore and what they thought about it. My current job has me sitting at a desk making invoices all day. So I put on podcasts and YouTube videos to listen to in the background to make work more easier. So if you just use this to listen to or hear, I appreciate that. And I'm glad that I could give you another video to watch. Please tell me what are your favorite Deltarune theories, if I got anything wrong or glossed over anything, because I'm certain that I don't have all the facts or details. So let me know what I missed, let me know what I think, and yeah, can't wait for the next chapter. Love this game.